the control rod that I just pulled off. It's got you got to keep downward pressure on it because there's a spring down here. There's also a plastic bushing in the tubing. It seems to be captive though, so it doesn't look like that comes out. But you got to keep downward pressure on that rod when you disconnect that plate, and then you got to kind of tilt the rod over to get a little room to get the chain around it so you can get it out of there. But you got to kind of hold the downward pressure, and then once the chain's off, pull it out. And then there's also a little washer that's on that bushing that's not captive, so you almost don't even see it. So just know that that bottom portion of that rod, there's a washer that's up against that plastic bushing in that tube that's going across. So keep the downward pressure and get your fingers down there and make sure the washer doesn't drop. So once I got it off of there, I took it back and I put tape around both ends to hold the washers, the springs and everything in place. So I should be able to, on reassembly, but be able to put it all back the way it was. So anyway, that's the first step. The control rod has 2 lock nuts. The top lock nut is the only one that you loosen. The bottom lock nut is actually welded to the bottom fork. So I made the mistake because the threads hadn't been undone in 30 years. They were really seized up. I did use some penetrating oil, but they were still seized. So I thought that bottom lock nut could turn, and it doesn't. And if you overturn, if you put too much tension on it, you could bend the fork. So be careful not to do that, and only unloosen the top lock nut, and then you should be able to rotate the control rod to loosen it. And it spins at the top. It's not captive at the top. It will spin in that socket at the top of the control rod. Okay, well, let's do it like they said. And maybe this will come. Maybe I can break this loose from that other wrench. That monitor. See what's going on here, so I'm going to pull you guys up here and show you what's going on, how to get to that bushing. Okay, so here's the new bushing. One's like a half washer, so it's got a little raised piece on it, and the other one's pretty flat. And it looks like I can't tell until I get it apart here, but there's a split ring here, and that's what's going to keep that gear on and that bushing, I think, to pull it all apart. So I got to try to pull that split ring. So I'm going to give it a little bit of oil. I don't think it's critical that monitor has exact tolerances. The whole boat kind of serpentines when you go through the water anyway, based on how you got your sails balanced, based on a lot of things, but yeah. Ooh, this ought to be fun. Maybe it's just kind of pinched in there, so. I'm sure it's a pretty strong ring. Oh, down here. I'm just trying to exercise it right now a little bit. Come back this way with it. I think this is where those bearings are too that are so problematic. I think you can see what I'm doing. I'm trying to pull this split ring that's right here. I'm going to get that off of there, and then all of that gear and everything should come off, I think. Let's see if I can prop you up here. There we go. Rusted to the upper part a little bit. A little corrosion in there. I'm going to clean all this up. Oil it up. There we go. We got her. So just want to look at it for a minute. It doesn't look like it matters what side goes where. It just needs to be cleaned. So I'm gonna clean this a little bit with years. The old owners put this on. They put over 100,000 miles on this boat. Sailed her twice to New Zealand. I don't know what they had on it the first time. I don't think they had this monitor. I think this was added in '98. That whole assembly comes off of there. When you get that off of there, you're kind of up to the yoke. The thing I was replacing was the plastic bushing between the yoke and the top plate, and then on the bottom where the gears are, there's another plastic bushing. And then in the video you see me pulling the gripper ring, or the split ring, excuse me, off of there. Then the gear comes off, and then the bushing, all that stuff will come apart. You know, there's a little tit on the side of that with a groove in the. Here's the old bushing, and this was on the top. I think this was on the top of the monitor. Anyway, there's the tit. That little tit. Or that's the recess for the tit. That fits up on that tit, and that's what kind of holds it on. So you got to kind of watch all those pieces kind of line up with that tit, and that's what holds it on. The gear included. The gear has a little tit, and that's what locks it on, and then that holds it in place. And then your gripper ring, or your split ring, excuse me, goes on the bottom of that, and that holds that gear and the bushings and everything together, and that's what holds it in place. That's how you reassemble it. So I know it's maybe not super clear, but in addition to the video and then this manual, hopefully you got the manual. It's not very difficult to do. You just got to be careful pulling it apart. And I'm just going to try to show you, see if there's. I don't know if everybody's got this manual or not, but here's the push rod being disassembled. The guy's disassembling it there, and then I'll just hold the camera here so you can kind of maybe read some of this stuff. Yeah, let's see here. Okay, and then remounting the base plate 11, that's that top plate with the 3 screws in it. Talks about this push rod, and then putting the fork back with a bigger gap. So it wasn't too difficult. Here's the plate that you disconnect, and you hold the push rod down, keep that downward pressure, and you get the plate off. Now I didn't take the plate actually off of the push rod. I kept it on there, and just kind of articulated the chain around it and pulled the whole assembly off, because there is a little plastic bushing, and there's one in the frame too, and I think they're captive in there, but I was worried about losing those. Anyway, I hope that helps you. Talks about the unmeshing the gears. The gears are not centered, the wind vane is upright and undo. Okay, so this talks about that. So anyway, hope that helps you, and have a good day. You go nowhere. Well, that's a... Okay, that looks like that might be okay. Well, when you take it off there, you'll know that that back one, that's where the flat screw goes. So you know that's the back post. So you won't get confused there. So I think I'm going to start by just putting that one back in. Okay, so I'm going to rotate this back so that that is the back one. Okay, so that's not going to work very well that way. So because the counterweight wants to just flip it, so I'm going to have to put the Loctite on and get that one started. You can imagine doing this on water. Later. You just have to kind of force it into place a little bit. It's not too hard. Okay, I think I got them started. Okay, now I'll cinch you up. I don't know what that looks like today. So, take you guys off of here again. So, anyway, that's changing that bushing in there. So, I don't see a lot of stuff on YouTube about tearing these things apart. A little bit in there. It's a good one. The guy rebuilt his, but I think that's it. Now you can see that bushing that changed. It's an old windvane, but I think it's still in pretty good shape. There's still things. I changed these. That kit was $350 for six. I think there's 6 of them. Really expensive. Or I could change this wheel too. But I'm not going to do that right now. Got to think about it. I should have put it on there and I got to cut it and put it back on. Oh, geez. Always something. Yeah, and then you can see that half moon I'm talking about right there. So that thing's got to be center, and the blade's got to be center, and this has got to be in the vertical position when it's all lined up, and that being in the middle. So that's the idea there. I think that's, otherwise it could come off, the gears could come off. And then this is that, recess cup. Man, I hope I got that right. If I didn't, I know how to fix it. Doesn't seem like it would jam up, but maybe it would. They said it would. Maybe mine's so old, it's got so much play it won't. I think I might have put it on backwards, so I think that might have got turned. Yeah, we'll see. I know what to do though. Anyway, there you go.